Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the Word from SDB. This is your girl, Dr. Stephanie D. Bonds. I'll tell you, it has been something I was trying to get to tonight. I have had a long day, but it's been a good day. This is always my long day. I have coaching clients that start at 6:30 in the morning, and then they go till late in the evening, and then I had some other things to do. But I'm here. I was here, Lord. That's what I always say on uh, just to recognize that some days that's all you can say is, you made it, you made it. So anyway, enough of all of that. It's so good to be back with you. This is your girl, Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, CEO of C-Suite Women's Network, where I help women and a few good men to be the CEOs of their lives. And of course, being the CEO of your life means that you are making the decisions that create the life you desire and deserve. And so I am excited, I really am truly excited to bring you day 2 of the 5-part series. Are you a boss, or are you just bossy? What does your leadership bring to the yard? And of course, I'm playing off the song I'm Bossy by Khalees. And she's talking about bringing her milkshake, bringing the boys to the yard. But what we want to do is to have our leadership bring the right people to the yard. And we want to be bosses and not just bossy. And of course, BOSS is an acronym for a commitment to being a great leader. So when you are making the transition from being the employee of your life, signing the back of the check, to being the CEO of your life, signing the front of the check, you want to be thinking about how are you going to lead those around you. So being a boss is about being a great leader, and it stands for, first of all, be the boss you want. Own your personal and professional SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. See your vision for your leadership, and set your mind on inspiring others through your behaviors and actions. And so today, on day 2, we're going to focus on being the boss you want. In the first day, we talked about what being a boss meant, and it truly means being a great leader. So it's important for you to commit to being a great leader yourself, right? And so the way that you can think of that is, kind of using the golden rule, do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. So be the boss to others that you would want for yourself. Well, that first requires some introspection, some reflection on the bosses that you've had. So the first thing that I want you to think about is, imagine your favorite boss. What made them your favorite leader? What was it about them that made you have an affinity for them as opposed to others? How did they treat you? How did they talk to you? How did they handle issues? What motivated you to work for them? How did they inspire you to want to do more? How did they inspire you to want to achieve a goal? How did they relate to others? How did they perform? Thinking back on your favorite boss, what was the one thing, if you couldn't pick anything else about them, that you loved about them? And then kind of on the flip side of that is, what were the worst things about your boss? Because, even our favorites have some downsides, right? So you really always want to think about the people who have led you in terms of what were the things that you liked, what were the things that you didn't like. Because there is no such thing as a perfect boss, but there are great attributes that you can learn from others. So, what are the things that you wish that they would have done differently? So that's kind of one thing to do when you're thinking about how you can be the boss you wish you had. Now, so, what are some of the highlights that you think about when you think about the favorite bosses you've had? Why don't you put in the feed some of the characteristics? I'd love to know, what did you like about your favorite bosses? What were the things that you learned from them? And what were some of the great characteristics about them as bosses? Then the flip side of that is thinking about who was that joker you couldn't stand? Who was the boss you hated? How did they make you feel? Why didn't you like them? How did they demotivate you? What were some of the things that they did that just pissed you off, that made you feel bad, made you dislike your job? What were some of the things about the way they performed? And then think about, even your worst boss, what were some of the great attributes? Because, when I reflect back on some of my favorite bosses, I think about, people who were great mentors, who were willing to teach me, who were willing to stress me, right? Being candid, that is something that is really important in a leadership environment, is to have open and honest dialogue about who you are, what's going on. So when I think and reflect back on my favorite bosses, I've had, I'd say like of my favorites, because I've worked for, I've worked for partners when I was in a law firm, and then I've had two CEOs. But one of my favorite things about my favorite CEO was he gave me the ability to create and didn't put me in a box. And that was one thing I loved, is that even though we didn't agree on everything, he would listen to my ideas, and he would allow me to experiment in some things, and it helped me to be more fulfilled in my job. So he didn't restrict me to exactly what my job description said, but allowed me to be able to express myself and to learn and to expand my capacity while expanding the capacity of the area that I had responsibility for. That was like my favorite thing about my past boss. Now, when I think about them crazy bosses I've had, one thing that I really did not like was I had a boss who was non-communicative. So rather than tell me, I don't like the way you're doing this, or it would be better if you were to do it this way, he was very passive aggressive. And that's one thing I can't stand about leaders, is passive aggressive. So rather than him saying what he didn't like, or better yet, teaching me how to do it right, because he was the partner and I was the associate, he waited until like the end of the year to dump all this stuff in an evaluation. Then he said something way after the fact when I couldn't do anything about it. So that was like one of my least favorite things, was passive aggressiveness. So what are some of the things I see, Alina, you say a clique mentality. Yeah, don't you hate that when bosses are not impartial and they kind of operate, within this little clique and don't really expand their capacity as it relates to working with others? But I'd like to know, like, what are some of the things that you've hated about your bosses? Because why do you go through this exercise? It's not just for the point of bringing up what you didn't like, what you don't like, and kind of harping about it, venting about it, but it helps you to understand how to be the best boss. So when I think about the boss that I couldn't stand and the one that I really disliked, his passive aggression drove me to be more open and honest with my team about the things I didn't like. And it also drove me to develop a way of doing performance evaluations, to where instead of waiting to the end of the year, I had active and ongoing discussions about things that I wanted to improve. So what's my point here? You can learn from your favorite bosses as much as you can learn from the bosses you couldn't stand. And you think about, you didn't like this being done to you. So what are some ways that you can avoid being that type of boss when you get the opportunity to lead others? So it's important you can learn from good and bad, because I always believe that in any situation, you can learn from anybody. You can learn what to do, you can learn what not to do, and you can turn a negative situation into something positive for you. So that's what I want you to focus on with this segment, is really thinking about, the bosses that you've had in the past that perhaps were not your favorite. What were some things that you could have done differently? Because rather than lament about, oh, I wish he had done this, I wish he hadn't done that, I wish he would have done this, when you are in a position of influence, then you now have the opportunity to be to someone else what you wish your leader could have been to you. So with my, like for example, like I said, with my passive aggressive leader, I use that experience to teach me how to be more communicative, how to be more nurturing, and to be a better leader in helping to develop my team. My boss, who made me, who was my favorite boss and was very creative, then that helped me to again realize that if I didn't put my employees or my team members in a box and allow them to use their creativity, then we could make greater results together. So on today, in this segment, Be the Boss You Wish You Had, you know, you are in any situation, you're always given choices around what you can do with the experiences that you have. Because, if you didn't like the way one boss treated you, then when you become the boss, when you become the leader, when you have the opportunity to influence others, instead of being bitter by that situation and basically repeating the same things that you've experienced, then you can turn those negative experiences into great experiences. Because, you know, as I've mentioned, being a boss, being a leader, being the CEO of your life is all about making decisions to use your influence to create better outcomes for you and for those that you're leading. So, reflect on, again, the good bosses you've had, the bad bosses you've had, what you've liked and disliked about both, and then use that to create what I call your Bionic Boss Guide. And what this is, your Bionic Boss Guide, is you're taking the good and the bad of your experiences and turning it into a situation where you're using what you've learned to be the best leader that you can be. So if you're committed to being a Bionic Boss, I want you to put in the hashtag, put in the feed rather, hashtag I am a Bionic Boss. Hashtag I am a Bionic Boss. Now, does this mean you're being perfect? No. What it does mean is that you're committed to continuously improving, and that you're committing to taking the good and the bad of the experiences that you've had to create the best scenario for being able to lead others. And of course, I'm battling this post-nasal drip. So I'm not sick anymore, but I've got all this little stuff dripping down the back of my throat. And I tried my best to make it through the whole video without having a cough, which I have been able to do. But I did have to drink a little bit of my tea to make sure that I didn't start coughing. Hey, Kia, how are you? So glad you joined. But of course, again, you want to take the good and the bad of the situations that you've had to create your version of the Bionic Boss. And this is being committed to continuously leading others in the way that you want to be led. Because when you have a position of influence, when you have a position of power, you are given the ability to truly express your choices. And thank you so much for the hearts. I'm loving it. So what you want to do is, again, commit to doing that, because you want to make sure that you are doing everything that you could, or everything that you can rather, so that when your team moves on and they're working for somebody else, then you can be on the good boss list. Now, is this about being liked? No, it's about being valued. Because I can guarantee you that, when I look back over the people that I've led, both as when I was supervising people in a company, as well as the people that I work with now as colleagues, as peers, I'm certain that there's some things about me that they didn't like, because, I'd be a little intense, and I always expect to get the best out of the people that I work with, so I can push them kind of hard, right? So that is both a strength and a threat, okay? Both a strength and a threat. We're going to talk more about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in day 3. But of course, that is something that is really important for you to recognize, what are the ways that you can often show up on the bad boss list? What are some ways that you can commit, though, to getting back on the good boss list. Because while you are not looking to be liked, you are looking to be valued. Because regardless of whether somebody puts me on the good boss list or the bad boss list, and I can guarantee you there's somebody who got me down as the worst boss they've ever had. All right. But one of the things that I can guarantee is this: that anyone that I've ever led, that I have pushed them to be better than they were before, and I've given them the opportunities to expand their capacity and the opportunities to be creative. Now, did I do it perfectly every time? No. Do they like me? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But they did get a value out of the relationship. And that's something that's really important as you're looking to be a boss, is that you're always focused on adding value. It's not about popularity, and it's not about power and authority, but it's about adding value. Because when you add value to people, then they're going to be valuable to you. They're going to be valuable to others. So it's always about focusing on being in a position where you can transfer value. Because even if you show up on the bad boss list, you want to make sure that there's at least something of value that you have transferred. Now, of course, your goal is to get on the good boss list, not because again of this big focus on popularity. Do they like me? No. Do they value you? So constantly think about being the boss you want and transferring value that you want to have transferred to you. And thinking back on your experiences to learn, what were some things you wish could have been done better? What are some things you wish you could do more of? And then use the influence that you have to recreate those situations in others and to create even more than what you were given before. So I don't want to belabor the point. There's not much more to discuss, and it is late, and I've got an early morning again tomorrow. But I did want to make sure that I brought you day 2 of the 5-part series. Are you a boss, or are you just bossy? What does your leadership bring to the yard? Because today, in focusing on being the boss you wish you had, which is the first part of the BOSS acronym, of course, is be the boss you wish you had, own your personal and professional SWOTs, see your vision for your leadership, and set your mind on inspiring others through your behaviors and actions. So tonight we focused on be the boss you wish you had, and on tomorrow, day 3, we're going to focus on owning your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Because the only way that you can be a better boss is to know what you need to improve. And so I'm going to give you some practical guidance on how to do that in a healthy way that allows you to be on a path of continuous improvement. So with that, I'm going to say peace out. This is your girl, Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, CEO of C-Suite Women's Network, where I help women and a few good men to be the CEOs of their lives. And being the CEO of your life means you are making the decisions to create the life you desire and deserve. So whether you want to be better in your business, whether you want to be better in your leadership, whether you want to be better in your service to others, you've always got to be committed to being a better boss. As I always say, if you want some personal instruction on how to improve your own leadership, how to become a better boss, then I'd encourage you to reach out to me. You can text me at 228-238-7997. Again, that's 228-238-7997. Put your first name, your last name, your email address, and the line, I want to be a better boss. And I'll contact you and figure out how we can work together so that you can improve your leadership skills and be more effective in your business, in the workplace, in the marketplace, and in those places where you're serving. Because one of the greatest things to remember about being a CEO is this: whether you are CEO of your home, CEO on the job, CEO of your business, being a CEO is a position of service. It is not about you. It's not about people serving you, but it is about being of service to others, adding value. For profit, non-profit, doesn't matter. It's all about adding value to others. So being a CEO is a position of service. Being a boss is a position of service because you are adding value to others so that they can create greater impact in the world. So with that, I'll say peace out. I'll see you next time on part 3 of the 5-part series. Are you a boss or are you just bossy? What does your leadership bring to the yard? And in day 3, we're going to focus on owning your personal and professional SWOTs, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. And I want you to commit to being a bionic boss. And remember, a bionic boss is taking the good, the bad, and the ugly of the leadership experiences you've had to create the best version of the leader you were always meant to be. So thanks a lot. I'll see you next time on The Word from SDB.